And here we are. Welcome to another amazing episode of FUD with Friends. For those of you who have not tuned in to FUD with Friends, you hear me talk all the time, probably a bit annoying over the last couple of years. So every second Friday, we bring on some other voices, some other opinions, some other really interesting people from the space. And today we are joined with three of the greatest guys that I know. We've been good friends for a long time, and they've been on our pod a few times, and me theirs. But the gents from Degen Roundtable, Brendan, Nate, and Agent J. What's up, guys?
Hey, man.
Awesome. Okay, before we get into it, does someone want to take a quick kick at explaining what Degen Roundtable is quickly, and then how people can get in contact with you if they're not familiar?
Yeah, Brendan, you said it last time. You want to take it again?
Sure, why not? Essentially, Degen Roundtable is a community that brings people together within the crypto space to learn, to find people that are like-minded, to help you not make mistakes that we've all made in the past. We run a podcast and a YouTube show every Friday night. We do a book club every Sunday night. We do our main flagship show, and then Wednesday we have guests on, or we do a Whiskey Wednesday. But generally, essentially, we want to be an educational platform for the wider crypto community. And again, we've been in the space like yourself, JD, for a long time, and we've made our fair share of mistakes. So if we can help people not make those same mistakes, that's really our goal.
Totally. And they can find you. What's the best place? Telegram?
You can find us on YouTube. That's Degen Roundtable. You can see my name there. And then also on X or in our Telegram group, which you can link to from our YouTube.
Amazing. All right. Topic today. What the heck are we talking about? Well, the elephant in the room obviously has been kind of the last week, and however we want to characterize it, the attempted assassination on former President Trump. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I think it's important for us we're seeing a lot of kind of conflicting narratives on it's a bull market already, it's going to be a blow off top in 24, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to try to talk a little bit about that and hopefully bring it back down to earth a little bit with a little bit of common sense from you guys. And then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how to position yourself now for the, if we are expecting a little bit more appreciation in the market, how to position yourself. And a few of our guests have some pretty interesting takes on that. So super excited to dig into it. Let's go. All right, we are back. So President Trump, attempted assassination. Bitcoin was dumping like crazy last week. The whole market, it was over. Everybody was saying it's over. Trump gets almost killed. And here we are this week on Friday, and we're watching Solana get back up to 180. We're watching, Bitcoin kind of coming up, maybe making people think we're going to hit 70 again. What do you guys think? Is it because Trump was almost assassinated? Maybe we'll start with Nate. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I really do think it is. Here's the thing about the assassination attempt, right? Is that it's like, okay, this could have gone south very quickly, but since it very luckily missed because of a head twitch, you can tell that people's hopes are just going through the roof. And because of that, obviously that's a lot of positive momentum, which people are going directly into, their funds and into crypto. And yeah, not only that though, too, it's also like the Ethereum ETF. People have been waiting and waiting and waiting for it to start trading. And then all of a sudden we get the news, hey, we're going to start trading next week. So I'm pretty sure it's just a lot of bullish momentum right now that is just kind of popping off. The hope is back, right? All the hope. And yeah, that's what I think it truly is.
A little bit of hopium. Maybe Agent J, what's kind of your opinion on this? Do you think that Trump almost being assassinated mattered? And do you think that if Trump is elected again in November, that will make a difference for us?
Yeah, JD, I think it certainly did matter. I can tell you right now, it was that Saturday afternoon. Me and my wife just got back home from having brunch, and the news came across our desk as soon as we got home. And obviously, I knew that this would have a significant impact on the market, depending on which way it turned out. And I was on the charts. And I can tell you, I was on that hourly chart as soon as that man got up and pumped his fist up in the air, and everybody found out that he was okay and he was still going strong. That's when we got that significant pump in the market. And then you also had a lot of outlets, for example, the poly market, priced in. Well, not priced in, but his chances of winning the election significantly went up after he got up and put his fist up on that platform. And I think the reason for that is when you have an attempt on somebody's life, especially like a presidential candidate, right? I think what that inevitably does is it galvanizes a lot of people who were probably in the middle into most likely voting for him. Because when you see that the other side has to go through such lengths, right? You have to you can't win fairly and squarely in a normal fashion, and so you have to take them out. And so people who are probably teetering in the middle, you're probably going to end up galvanizing them to vote for him during the upcoming election. And as we know, Donald Trump, even though I don't think he still has completely won over the cryptocurrency folks. I think by nature we are skeptical, and as we should be. And so there are a lot of folks who say that he might just be pandering to the audience, right? Because he's a good businessman. He knows how to market himself. But at the very minimum, we know that one side, in this case, Donald Trump, has planted his flag firmly as the pro-crypto president. Joe Biden has not. And that's only made stronger by his VP pick, right? He picked JD Vance. When I heard JD, I was like, whoa, JD, you got chosen as his running mate, bro?
You know how cool that would be? I would never make it in politics, though.
I think you could give it a good run, but
I'd say something stupid and be ousted. I'd be canceled probably before I even got in there.
But yeah, I mean, so JD Vance has a pretty good track record when it comes to crypto. He's been a very outspoken person when it comes to Gary Gensler and the SEC's regulatory regulation by enforcement approach. He's in the process. I'm not sure exactly where they are at, but he's in the process of drafting a bill in the Senate that people are saying could rival FIT 21. As far as like the crypto regulatory framework goes. And then he obviously, he walks the walk and talks the talk, because some of his crypto holdings have been doxed, and he has a sizable amount of Bitcoin. And then apparently, I'm not sure if this is verified, but apparently he's also a pretty big holder of AVAX.
Interesting. And
so I think a Trump presidency can only mean positive things for the cryptocurrency space. And we'll find out exactly the what else he has in store, because he is going to be one of the keynote speakers at Bitcoin Nashville next Saturday. So that'll be exciting. It'll be an exciting next week for crypto for sure.
The one BTC event I don't go to. And
really?
Of course, Trump is going to show up. Brendan, I kind of want to turn it over to you a little bit. I mean, we could probably talk politics and crypto for the rest of the day. But there's a lot of different variables. If one party controls the White House, the House, and the Senate, that's a totally different game for crypto than if we still have to filibuster and if there's a presidential veto in play and all of these things. Do we need to do we need to win we being pro-crypto candidates? Do we need to take everything for this to actually matter? Or kind of what are your thoughts on the political landscape at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. It starts with the leader of the parties, right? That's where everyone's going to look first. And Trump might not be the most pro-crypto person of all time, but he's certainly come around to it. He's certainly warmed up to it. And, it's not just about him, but look at some of the people within the party that are very, very pro-crypto, like Senator Loomis, JD Vance, and quite a few others. It's interesting. We had like a worldwide outage in banks today, and airlines and hospitals. They evacuated my fiance's entire hospital, and these are like old people, and they're like 70s, 80s, 90s, like terminal, and they had to like get them all out of the hospital because of this whole thing going down. You know what didn't stop? Crypto. And Senator Loomis mentioned that today. I think we're starting to see a lot more bipartisan movement in the crypto market. Both Democrats and Republicans have passed bills that are bipartisan, pro-crypto, even though they've gotten vetoed by Biden. But that's where a change in president would make a difference, right? Because we're starting to see quite good pro-crypto regulation from both sides, Democrats, Republicans. But we need someone finalizing, signing those papers, putting their stamp of approval on them in the Oval Office. Because right now, Biden is just tearing down every bill coming forward. And guess what? It's weird that we're getting bipartisan bills in 2024, which is an election year, because you very rarely get bills like this to go through in an election year. So that they're even getting to Biden's desk and getting vetoed shows the power and the interest of the American people and the people that we have elected to move in that way. Now, of course, we have some dinosaurs in office on both sides that are not, huge into crypto, but generally speaking, it's on the Democratic side. So I don't think we need to win. Pro-crypto needs to win the House, the Senate, and the presidency because we're getting a lot of bipartisan effort. But the presidency matters because of that veto hammer that they can throw down if we don't get the 2/3 majority. So obviously, it's really important. I think the presidential election is the most important. And of course, more pro-crypto senators and representatives would be great. But I think we have enough to get things done. So I really think a change in the Oval Office would be huge. And I think that's really what the difference was, because Trump nearly getting assassinated increased his chances of winning the election. So people seeing his chances increasing to win the election see that positive for the markets and for crypto. So that's, I feel like, why we got that pump too. You are muted, my friend.
I would have been going on forever. See, that's why I'm not good for politics. I mean, I'm definitely not sad about the momentum that we have right now. It's probably the most positive generally that I've felt in quite a while with respect to the overall market and just the innovative opportunity here.
Yeah.
People are excited, And so one final question and whoever wants to take this one, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Do we think that if Biden, for whatever reason, drops out, that there is a larger risk, or is it better for us in general with respect to crypto? Do you think that the fill-in candidates behind Biden will be a better option for us as a space? Anybody can take this one. It's just kind of a speculative question.
I mean, first of all, no and yes, because incumbents always have the best chance of getting reelected. So if they replace Biden with anybody else, the chances of the election that's going to be Democratic, the percentage of that would go down. So that would mean Trump would have a better chance to get elected. So, but overall, I don't think any of the candidates that they're looking at, Kamala Harris, I don't even think she knows what a cryptocurrency is. I'm not even sure she knows what the internet is. I don't even know if she knows if the banks were down today. Not quite sure what her knowledge area is or where her expertise is, because it doesn't seem to be in the DA field or in law enforcement field, even though that's what she's supposed to be an expert on. And Gavin Newsom, I mean, bro, he's in California. Look at the laws that they're passing. I don't think he's going to be any better than Biden. So I don't think there's going to be anybody better, but it would be a more potential landslide victory for Trump if the incumbent is not in the race.
Yeah. Just worth clarifying. This is not financial advice. This is not any type of indication of, us saying this is going to happen, but Brendan said it here first. Doesn't matter who it is. If somebody replaces Biden, Trump's even more likely to get elected. So let's take that right to the bank. All right.
And JD, can I add something to that real quick?
Of course.
The thing is, even let's say the worst comes to worst, right? And even if Joe Biden drops out, somebody replaces him, and the left still manages to take the presidency. In regards to your question earlier about if we would need sweeping wins in the presidency and Congress and Senate in order for us to have positive crypto regulatory framework here in the U.S., I don't think that's the case at all, right? Brendan already alluded to earlier that we very rarely get overwhelming bipartisan support when it comes to key issues across both sides of the aisle, and crypto is one of those issues, right? You could see that by the overwhelming support with overturning the accounting bulletin, SAB 121, the support that we're getting for FIT 21. And so regardless of who wins in November, obviously we'd hope it'd be a pro-crypto president. But I think regardless of who wins in November, I think crypto is going to move forward regardless, right? I think that's one of the best things about this space is, right, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much power you have. It doesn't really matter how much influence you have. Crypto is insulated from all of those things, right? No one nation, no one king, no one president can control it. And so it will move forward regardless, right? And I think we've seen that even though we've had 4 years of a lot of FUD with what happened in 2022, the bank failures, not having a very pro-crypto president in place. Despite all of those headwinds trying to kill this space, the space has moved forward regardless. And so I think it's going to keep doing that, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who controls the Congress, no matter who controls the Senate.
Amazing. Well, guys, I feel more confident after having this conversation. So let's maybe get into brass tacks a little bit. So I was reading a couple of articles today. One of them that was alluding to all-time high in BTC ETFs, the total amount in Bitcoin ETFs, as well as 1 billion in inflows in the last 10 days, which is obviously exciting given that it's not new anymore. And so money is coming back in because of positive sentiment. They're also suggesting that Bitcoin should now go almost directly to 107. This is Amber Crypto suggesting this, 107K. It's going to go first to 107 and then back down to 50. I guess word of caution, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today with you guys. Word of caution here is there are a lot of opinions. What is that old adage? They're kind of like assholes. Everybody has one, and they usually smell like shit. But anyways, wow, that was a dad joke if I've ever heard one. But there's a lot of opinions out there, right? And there's some really smart people that I respect deeply that are completely opposite in opinions on what to expect next. So instead of my opinion, I'd love to maybe just start with Nate. Where do you think we're headed? We're going to get into some of our strategies for identifying how to play the market later, which I know you've got some awesome ideas on. But for now, do we think we're going to see kind of this pump coming into the election? Or do we think everybody's going to be a little apprehensive? Kind of where's your head at? What do you think the next 6 to 12 months roughly might look like?
Yeah, we're definitely going to be pumping, that's for sure. I brought this up in our private Telegram stream that we have for our Telegram community with Jay, and he runs that one. So, kudos to him. He does a really good job with TA. And by the way, Jay is going to be the one here who's going to have the most information because he is our TA expert. He's the best at that. But yeah, in my opinion, we had 2 straight red candles, right? Monthly red candles, which historically for the past 2 cycles has meant that it's just green for the next several months, right? And also when you look at the fractals, so like taking the second cycle and the third cycle, and then you like take sort of the area where you're at now, and you just kind of overlay them, right? It's basically just straight up at this point. Now, does that mean we're not going to have pullbacks or anything? No. But we are hitting that point where it's like, okay, that whole blow off top, right? Where you should originally hit the all-time high in Bitcoin before the next bear market will start. That's technically right in this specific area where we're at right now. And so I do definitely see us going up as far as hitting 100K, maybe by the end of the year. Perhaps, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly positive on that one. This is the ETF cycle though, so we will see what happens because it is a little bit different, okay? And that's the whole story of like 3 times in a row now. It's been, hey, this cycle is different. This cycle is different. Well, 3rd time's a charm, right? This cycle seems to be different.
It definitely feels different because cycles in the past that I've been a part of as a builder, we've always kind of seen the general Bitcoin and ETH and kind of whatever your blue chips are at the time, some of which don't exist next cycle. But whatever your blue chips are at the time, they kind of move first. And then we generally see the waterfall effect. You see people starting to take a more concerted interest in DeFi and yield farming and other opportunities to obviously increase their holdings.
Absolutely.
Do do we think that? I don't remember where I was going with that question, honestly. But I think as we kind of get into this, there's so much speculation around kind of what the cycles look like, and well, this didn't happen last year, and this year we didn't see the DeFi cycle. I guess that's where I was going with that comment. We haven't seen the waterfall effect. We've just seen, from my perspective, the majors, Bitcoin and ETH, and then really meme coins has kind of been the market.
Right there. That's a part of what I got to talk about here with my sort of thesis for the blow off top. But first, I actually want to move it over to Jay here, because he's the one who really is in depth with the charts and everything, kind of looking at all that. So
amazing. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, from a charting perspective, the Bitcoin chart certainly looks a lot healthier, right? I think the consolidation and the pullback that we've had over the past few months or so was definitely healthy for the 4-year cycle. I'm sure a lot of people who do technical analysis will not be, unfamiliar with the fact that many pundits were talking about how this could be a potential left translated cycle for Bitcoin, and we were getting very close to that, right? A lot of the on-chain indicators that me and my team have been personally watching got close to what would potentially could be a top in the cycle, but that did not happen because we got this healthy pullback in the market. Now, as far as where the price is going to go, I always defer back to something that my mentor taught me, and is that you let price tell you what to do and you just adapt to it, right? Now, as far as the technicals are concerned, there is a strong case to be made for $80 to $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I certainly am in the camp that it's very likely that we're going to see $100,000 Bitcoin by December of this year, because we have a lot of tailwinds in front of us, right? So we've already spoken a little bit about the very pro-crypto presidency that Trump is potentially going to have, and the type of cabinet that he's going to form around cryptocurrency. We also have the interest rates, right? That's on everybody's minds. And because we've seen the numbers that Jerome Powell likes, right? We have a softening. So it's a very politically correct way of saying that he wants people to lose their jobs, but softening of the labor market, decreasing in the overall inflation. And so people are hopeful that we are going to see quantitative, we're going to transition into a quantitative easing environment, which is also going to be positive for crypto in general, right? When you start cutting those interest rates. Other factors, global liquidity is increasing. The US M2 money supply in March flipped bullish. And that one I was particularly bullish about, because when you see that thing flip bullish and we are still in elevated interest rates, not in a QE environment, that's telling me that the money coming in is not artificial, right? If you had positive global liquidity and positive M2 money supply, but the Fed is printing money, then you're like, well, obviously that's going to happen, right? But because we're not in that state yet, I'm fairly bullish about those particular indicators. So yes, $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, totally possible. I am much more dubious, and I'm much more uncertain about Bitcoin pulling back to 50,000 after we reach that 100,000. I just don't think a 50% retrace, as the market stands with the amount of liquidity that exists in the market, I don't think that's just going to happen, right? I think 20 to 30% is reasonable, but 50% retracement, especially at that point in the cycle, I think you're just not going to see it personally.
It'll be interesting to see how the ETF investors respond. Because the thesis is, or at least my thesis is, that ETF BTC capital is a lot more sticky than, self-custodied on-chain, especially new entrants. There's really sticky BTC in the OGs, in the OGs' hands in cold storage. They're never selling. But often when you see new entrants come in, they come into the market, self-custody or playing with centralized exchanges, and there's a lot of activity. They're buying and selling, and they get all emotional. But ETFs, a lot of them are part of retirement portfolios. A lot of them are part of managed portfolios from, brokers or advisors, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that's going to help. Brendan, just before we move on, to learn a little bit about Nate's super thesis on how to make money in the cycle. I don't know. We got to give it a fun name. But before we go there, Brendan, just one quick thing. So what I'm hearing from Jay and Nate here is that there's seemingly a lot of convergence of really positive kind of narratives and momentums and kind of coming together at the same time. Now, I do believe that. I'm very bullish and positive on it. But there's something in the back of my head that says election year, buy the rumor, sell the news. And at the end of the year, again, people have been making some money. And since crypto is still technically a liability in America on corporate balance sheets, are we going to see some sell-offs at the end of the year? Kind of what are your thoughts on that? Should we be trying to play that speculative angle of the market like we have in cycles past?
Depends on how much you are in the market. To most people, I'd say you're better off just holding till you get up towards the top, because we're not at a point where it makes sense to try to sell to make a rebuy 20% lower. Yeah. It's a really risky bet. So if you think that you're going to continue to go up overall going into 2025, then no, I think it's probably a bit too risky to take some money off the table if you're around 90 and 100K. Unless, look, you have a lot and you bought it all at 10K, right? Or 5K, then yeah, you're probably going to take some off the table at 100K. But if your thesis really is that we're going to continue to move up into 2025, then it's probably not ideal to start taking money off the table in 2024, even if you hit 100K. People are calling, like you said, at 250K, 300K. Someone called for $1 million today. And I'm like, geez, come on, that's a little too much.
This cycle?
Yeah, this cycle. No, but look, take people into consideration. Now, I always want to tell our people in our community that influencers are generally always going to say higher than what they actually think, so that you keep buying so that they have exit liquidity. Yeah. So you have to be really careful when influencers say what they think that the prices are going to be, because usually it's going to be a little bit more muted because they want you to be their exit liquidity. And I don't want you to be their exit liquidity, which is why we want you to be in our Telegram and in our community. The one thing that I'll say is, a year ago, JD, we came up with a theory called the perfect storm theory. A year ago. It was our 4th show. And we revisited that perfect storm theory 4 months ago. And everything that we said could be a possibility to create a perfect storm in crypto and a potential for a blow off the top has so far come to pass. One of the next things that we're starting to see change of sentiment was positive crypto regulation and change in presidency. So that would be the next sort of brick in the wall to fall, so to speak, or the next piece of the puzzle to fall into place. And look, it's a theory. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's why you always have to be open to change whatever your theory is. Like Jay said, the price in the market dictates what you believe. So don't get too stuck to being right. You just want your money to be right. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You could change what you believe. But currently, we're starting to really, really think that there could be a perfect storm theory brewing. And we will revisit that on our show again, probably here in another month or so, because it continues to build and it continues to play out in a way that we said it could. Not that we thought it necessarily would, but maybe it's building up more than I even anticipated. Because even think about this, China hasn't even really gotten to the market. We don't have retail in the market yet. This is all just institutions and crypto people buying. We don't have other things really moving into this market yet. So I don't think we have all of our inroads and all of our purchasers anywhere close to what we will in 6 months to a year from now. So we'll see if that's the case or not, but you always have to be paying attention. So,
well, Fast Abdul has said in the comments section that you're very prophetic. And so hopefully we'll actually, see the prophecy come to fruition here. Now, I spend a lot of time. Thank you guys a ton for your thoughts and opinions on that. I spend a lot of time with my head down building in the DeFi space. Generally speaking, DeFi and DeFi related infrastructure. And one noticeable difference so far this cycle has been, like I said earlier, there's not been a lot of excitement, movement, participation, growth, expansion, innovation in the DeFi space. And so when thinking about, okay, we may have a blow off top, we may have, sounds like we may have some convergence that's going to lead us to excitement nearing the end of the year. If that is the case, how do we position ourselves? Are we expecting, some sort of waterfall again? Are we expecting DeFi to catch up? I know we're going to start. I'd like to start here with you, Nate. I know you have some theories on kind of how to position yourself going into the next cycle, and I'd love to kind of dig into that if you're so inclined.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing you need to look at is kind of like, obviously in crypto, we take as much of the past as we possibly can, and we try and guess what's going to happen in the future based on that, right? However, if we were to do that, you actually look at the old technology of former cycles, doesn't really do better in the current cycle, right? It's always a new thing. And so, like, the very first cycle, you had, Bitcoin forks, right? You had money payment solutions. That was the big thing, right? And then all of a sudden, the next cycle after that, you have smart contracts, right? Smart contract building. You could build up on different types of different coins, different projects, things like that, right? And then all of a sudden, you hit last cycle where you have Uniswap, right? And that mathematical equation, which now you can just start creating coins out the wazoo. And when you look at all of these tech innovations, the way that I'm kind of viewing it is like, okay, you're building out, like, say, a city. Okay, you're putting in the electrical grids, you're putting in the roads, you're putting in the sewer systems, right? And it's all these rails for everything to work properly. But now it seems like this cycle, we still have not we haven't gotten that technological advance. I think the closest thing that I can figure that we've gotten with that is the 404 NFTs, which is basically just tokenized NFTs, right? They're both coins and NFTs, and that's the problem with NFTs, is that they're illiquid, right? Kind of like how a house would be, it's like it takes a long time to sell one, versus coins is just swap here and there. So there's kind of an in between with that, but that seems to be the best innovation that we've really had. And so it's like, well, okay, so what has this cycle been? Now, if you go back in the past, you're going to be noticing that most all cycles has this like warm up alt season, right? And then there's a big dip, and then all of a sudden a blow off top where everything just bananas, And so far, the only thing that we've really truly had is memes, right? On Solana. It's been Solana meme season. And if you look at the percentage, it's like what, 14,000% overall gains on just memes alone. And then the next two are AI and real world assets, which is at a 300%. So there's a difference there, right? So historically in the past, when you look at kind of what that warm up season was, you can kind of, for the most part, guess what the blow off top is going to be. And so far, since it's been so stupidly clear that it's only memes, I've got this theory that it's no longer the technology. It's no longer about the rails for the city anymore. Now it's people are bored because the city works. Cool, I can drive here and there. I can, I got a toilet, right? I can flip the light switch on and off. It works. Cool. Well, now what? What else are we going to do in a city? Well, here's where we come to entertainment. Okay, now you have the carnivals coming in. Now you're going to have the casinos, right? And that's what meme coins ultimately kind of are. It's fun. It's fun. It's degenerate gambling fun on the blockchain. And I think we've hit that this cycle, because now the only people who are bringing money into the older assets is traditional finance, right? All the people, all the degens who have already been here, just basically swapping the same money around in crypto, they went straight towards just having fun and memes. And so that's what I'm starting to see, like, for this blow off top. What you want to be looking for is a couple of things where it's all going to be meme related, right? But I mean, obviously, I don't want to go trading around a bunch of meme coins where I can get rugged at any point in time, right? So what you want to look at is why do people love Solana? Well, because it's fast and it's cheap. Okay, cool. What are other L1s, L2s, whatever, right? Where else are these memes going to go? Well, I would say base, right? Pulse Chain is another one. Pulse Chain is really good for that. We got Phantom with their new Sonic upgrade, and it's going to become Sonic. That's a very good one that I'm looking very closely at, by the way. So I think those are the places you want to start kind of looking around at, look around for these cheap, fast places where people can trade quickly. And then you can do a couple of things. You can either try and look for the memes themselves, which if you're going to do that, you're going to need to get involved in the communities of these meme coins. Are they growing, right? Does a dev rug and the community like, screw that guy. Let's do a dog with hat, another 100 or 280,000x, right? Like, you want to look for that kind of like almost cult like mentality. Okay. those communities, that's going to be the main thing, because people are looking to imprint culture on the blockchain, and that's people. That is just people. It's not technology, how good that is. It's literally just people liking something, right? It's popular.
So what I'm hearing from you is that, in your opinion, and I definitely don't disagree here, the vast majority of focus right now has been on memes, other than, like I said, infrastructure and so on.
Yeah.
How do you, I think you're getting there, but how do you suggest that we use that perspective now to identify where opportunity is the greatest?
So opportunity is going to be the greatest in trying to guess which chains, aside from Solana, are going to be the best ones to go to. Okay, again, fast and cheap. Okay, now Base is one. I think that's been second place so far to Solana, where a lot of people are making memes over there. You know, you got Brett over there, right? So here's the alternative to just going for memes, right? Because I myself, like, I've messed around with memes. I've done some degen stuff, but it's like, okay, that's a little bit risky. You don't necessarily want to do that, nor do people have the time to go into the communities and really research into that, right?
For sure.
Okay, so here's the other thing. When you create a casino, who makes all the money? Is it the people who go in there and gamble, or is it the person who owns the casino, or at least takes pieces in the casino?
Probably the government, but other than that, the owners of
well, aside from the government. But yes, it's people who basically own a piece of the casino. So what you want to be doing is you want to be going and looking for these coins. And this one, I'm going to give Agent J a shout out for this one, because this was something that I didn't think about, but he was like, dude, Base, Aerodrome, this is going to be like the biggest DEX on the L2. I'm like, you know what? That is a fantastic idea. I'm going to go throw some money at it too. And so from there, I've been looking at other ones, you know, Pulse X itself, actually. So that's some of the new technology that hasn't gotten to the wider view is on Pulse Chain. There's this thing called a buy and burn, right? And the idea is the fees from the DEX, because you know how the fees are always taken. Well, those fees are sent to a buy and burn address, aka an infinite buyer who's always buying up that token, right? And that's what Pulse X does. And so when people are going around like trading a bunch of meme coins back and forth, and you're owning Pulse X, well, these people who are trading back and forth, degenning like that, are technically buying your bags too, because of that forever buyer. So it's a really, and this is only on Pulse Chain, by the way. It's why it's one of my favorite L1s currently. But you know, yeah, fast and reliable. That's kind of what you want to look for. What is the casino that's currently going on for memes, or what are the rails that memes can travel through, and then what's the underlying what would you call it? The underlying utilities of that, right? The utility tokens, and go for those ones. I think those are the safer ones.
It's actually a really interesting take. I'd love to hear. I know we're kind of bumping up on time here. It's interesting though, because instead of taking the extreme volatility /rug /exploit risk of trying to chase each meme, what you're suggesting is let's invest in the damn shovel. So figure out where the memes are likely to be deploying and invest in the shovel. It's a little hard to invest in Base unless you're buying Coinbase stock. But I'm sure there's ways to invest in platforms on Base that are doing some pretty interesting things. I want to pass it over to Jay quickly, just to kind of get the TA perspective on how to identify opportunities for people that aren't TA experts. And then I'd love to have each of you, just as we wrap up, kind of give your one thing that you would implore everybody to take a look at in the next little bit, and why. So Agent Jay, go ahead, buddy.
Well, for me personally, I would actually have to agree with a lot of things that Nate said. I lean heavily towards TA, but I also do a lot of the fundamental research when it comes to particular assets and protocols that I'm going to invest in, right? I know that diehard crypto folks are not fan of memes, right? But the unfortunate reality is, and this is something that I've had to come to terms with during my stint in this space, is that people that buy, right? Like I always tell folks that the charts and the data that we see on the charts are just a mathematical representation of people's emotions, right? When people get involved in meme coins, and why it's so popular is because people really care more about how something makes them feel than the technicals of it, right? It's just the unfortunate reality, right? It's one of the things about us as humans, right? We're emotional creatures. We like to be part of a group. And so that's why I think in particular, like not trying to bag on the XRP community or the Cardano community, right? But I think there's a little bit of arrogance there in believing that just because you have good tech, it's going to bring you widespread adoption, right? I think that's precisely the reason why Solana basically came back from the grave in 2022, is because the developers there, the creators there, were not so arrogant to believe that just because they had good tech, it was going to bring them widespread adoption, right? They welcomed the meme coins. They welcome the degeneracy that is part and parcel of the crypto space. Same thing that's happening over in Base. You have a lot of amazing protocols there, right? Like, for example, Aerodrome, a lot of us are big fans of. And what that does is when you bring that like massive people over to protocols like Solana and Base and Pulse Chain, like Nate said, what you inevitably bring is also positive benefits to the underlying technology, right? If the meme coins on Solana do well, guess what? Sol, the token, is going to do well, right? Jupiter, their newest DEX, is going to do well. If Base does well, guess what? Aerodrome is going to do well. And you're able to be closest to the money in that way, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of Base, right? Even if you're not a fan of Coinbase, the company in general, what you have to realize is, look, they're the custodians for almost all of the ETFs, the Bitcoin ones. They're probably going to be the primary custodians for the Ethereum ETFs, maybe the Solana ETFs, who knows? And they've made a lot of things very user-friendly for the average person, right? They have these things called smart wallets. No need for a seed phrase. They're developing this new app that is basically going to integrate all of your different DeFi wallets into one place. Now, obviously, as a crypto native, you're like alarm bells are ringing in your head. That's very antithetical to the spirit of crypto. But again, right, we care about that kind of stuff. But the unfortunate reality is, for the average person getting into this space, they care about ease of use. They care about looking at a friendly UX, easy to use interfaces, right? And so because not only is Coinbase closest to the ETFs, they're making very user-friendly applications for the average person to use. So they're going to be closest to the money, which means Base is going to be very close to the money. And so that means all of the money that's going to come in through those different protocols, it's inevitably going to benefit the underlying technology underneath. So like Nate said, look for those things that are capturing the attention and the zeitgeist of the middle of the bell curve, right? Those people, because they're gonna make up the majority of your customer base. Look for what's capturing their attention. Look at where they're going, and then identify the technologies that are actually worthwhile in that ecosystem, and then you can make a bet there that is not super high on the risk curve, right? Like if you're in Solana, you don't have to invest in the meme coins in Solana if you're not that degenerate, but because the customers are going there, Solana's going to do well, and use that process to identify other potential good investments in other ecosystem as well.
Amazing. Thanks, man. Okay. So we're going to do kind of the final rapid fire round. We're going to start with Brendan. If you had one project or protocol that you would absolutely love, if our friends that are watching would take a look at, what would it be and why?
I could tell you right off the bat, Pulse X. It's the DEX on Pulse Chain. It's because of the new technology. And I mean, I could there's a bunch of other ones that are on Pulse Chain that have extremely good tech. It's actually insane. But like Pulse X itself has that buy and burn. And like I said, with the whole casino, what you're looking for is something, you're looking for a layer that's either fast or cheap or both, right? Which, Pulse Chain happens to be. And the thing is that with these degenerates, going back and forth, trying to meme with each other, they're just buying your bags because the fees go straight to a buy and burn that will never be sold ever. So that's my favorite type of project. I think it's the future.
So Nate comes out first with a bold prediction. Pulse Chain and or Pulse X are something definitely worth looking at. Brendan, Agent J.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Nate there. I mean, just the prices right now are so incredibly cheap that it's far less risky than it was a year ago to buy, and we're getting close to an opportunity for a big blow up in the bull market. But obviously everything's risky, so you have to buy and sell yourself. There are some other projects out there that are really good. I mean, I think Illuvium is priced pretty well right now. That was expected to be one of the best GameFi projects, and they're building and they're launching more more and more. So I think that what they're coming up with could be really good. Last time I looked, Illuvium was around like $70. I think it's probably still right around there at the moment. And I think all-time high was 150, give or take, if I remember correctly. So we're still far away from the all-time high, to a little bit more than a 2x to get there. And look, Illuvium could hit into the hundreds fairly easily this cycle. So I'm not super exposed to Illuvium, although I do have some of the NFTs, do have some coins. I just think it's a really good buying opportunity. Solana, look, as a layer one, Solana is still a good buy, I think, because everyone seems to be flocking to it. And if that's going to be the next ETF that's going to be potentially approved in the future, because it's the third one, right? Solana is a third ETF that's been filed for. That means that we could have another opportunity to see Solana move up pretty well. So those are sort of three that I like right now.
What I just echo what you said about Illuvium. What I like about it is their shipping, and people are using it. Those are the two critical components of these types of technologies.
And I feel like the price should be higher than it is currently, to be honest with you.
I think we're getting a little bit more mature as a space at being a little bit more objective in terms of how to value protocols. Are they making revenue? Is it sustainable? Are they growing? What's the user acquisition strategy? What's the cost per acquisition, et cetera? Illuvium's definitely been on my radar, so I will also echo that one. You get the last take, Agent J. What would you suggest that people should be looking at?
I'm a very conservative investor by nature, so if I'm not going to give you the boring answer of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, I would also have to echo Illuvium. That's one of my investments that's a bit further down the risk curve. I think it's a creature capture game, which, if you've been around for the past few decades, Pokemon has kind of been the number one, has been in the number one spot. I think that's why Pal World has experienced such great success, because again, it's a creature capture, which I actually was very upset, because I'm like, yo, a lot of this stuff is what Illuvium is going to do, and I'm just upset that they got beat to the punch there. But yes, Illuvium for sure. And just a small correction, the all-time high for Illuvium, I believe, was around $1,900, not $150, $1,900. And yes, I'd certainly be very interested in how, once the game is released, what kind of revenue the game is going to bring, because that's inevitably going to funnel the price, what we'll see as far as what Illuvium, the token, can do in the future. But aside from Illuvium, in AI, I like Fetch and Render, or ASI, once that migration is done. And there's a few other GameFi plays that I'm involved in, but Illuvium for sure, and then AI, man. I think Fetch and Render going to be top performers there. So those are my picks for sure.
And Fetch, man, could have just bought Fetch for 30 cents just like a few days ago, and now it's like back up to 60 cents. Literally, could have 2x if you just hit that.
I did it.
That bought a few days ago. I bought a little more as well.
I definitely didn't do it. Hey, we've got just as we exit, all four of us. There's a question here from Ty. What is the Solana price prediction? Not financial advice. None of us actually know what it's going to be. I'll go first. I think we can easily see Solana to 400. It would make it 160 billion in fully diluted market cap. I could see definitely a 2, maybe even a 3x from here personally. But again, you got to don't get set. My advice is don't get set on a number. Don't say I'm selling at 150 and not a penny before. Because you have to, like Brendan was saying earlier, you have to let your money does the talking. It's the money that has to win, not your opinions. And so I think just be prudent. So 2 to 3x for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think 500-600. Sorry, I think 500-600 certainly could be. I won't say this year, but through this cycle, I think 500-600 is definitely a possibility. With Solana, I think, like you said, 400 is probably the low end, and honestly, like 800 to 1,000 is probably the high end, but so if you somewhere in the middle of there is your average, 650, somewhere in there is very, very doable.
Beauty. Nate?
Yeah, and I agree with the high end. Caveats, right? The high end, if Solana keeps up its dominance in the meme culture, right? And personally, I think the meme culture is going to be spreading and moving on to other chains. And so the Solana dominance is going to go down. But if it does stay the way it is for the blow off top, definitely for sure. But also one more, ETFs. If you add in the Solana ETF for next year, if you have these two, right? Yes, definitely 1,000 for sure.
Amazing. Agent J, same for you, or where do you think Solana is heading?
I actually think $1,000 Solana is not out of the question. I think with the ETFs coming in, look, Solana's all-time high was like what, 240? So it's a cycle 2 coin, a 2x for Solana, I think is a bare minimum. I think that's like extremely conservative for Solana, and the way that it's going, especially once Fire Dancer is live, people have a little bit more, have a bit more confidence in the chain not going down so much. But you know, I always say like, look, the fact that Solana goes down every now and then is it could be seen as a good thing, because it means that a lot of people are using it and they're getting overwhelmed, and so they're losing power every now and then. But that's besides the point. I think a 2x from all-time highs, which would put it at around $450, is completely well within the cards. I think if that ETF even gets a portion of the attention Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs are going to get, I think $1,000 Solana is still well within the cards of like 5x from all-time highs for Cycle 2 coin, for one that's basically entrenched itself as a layer one and an asset that's going to be here for the long term, that has extreme adoption from the institutions here in the US. I think $1,000 is like fairly conservative, to be honest.
I'd love to do maybe we'll have to do an episode one of these days, a FUD with friends, just on Solana, because I have a lot of ideas on kind of certain things that they're developing to make the chain better and the ecosystem better, and it'd be great to talk about. Hey guys, across platforms, I have to say this is one of the stickiest FUD with friends we've had. We have a lot of people across the platforms that have been hanging on with us for bumping up against an hour here. So super appreciate having you guys on. It's amazing to have, you know, other opinions. People like to hear from people other than me, of course. So thank you guys very much. Quickly, if you want to follow these guys, which I highly suggest, check out their Telegram, Degen Roundtable. Go to YouTube, Degen Roundtable. It's under their names. Give them a follow, give them a like. You will not be disappointed. And you might even learn something about Pulse Chain. So with that, I say to you, gentlemen, have a beautiful weekend, and everybody that's watching, have a beautiful weekend, and go FUD yourself.
With that, I have to say, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.